Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Guys, we have some beginner tactic videos to do. I'm gonna try my best to get different formations, different tactics for you guys, because I know that some people don't like to use certain formations. They like to use others, and in FIFA, honestly, a lot of formations can work. Everyone's going to always have a certain personal preference in regards to how they want their players to move. Like for me personally, I always feel like having two strikers, especially for the new gen version of the game, is super important. But for other people, you know, playing a 4-3-2-1 could be a super ideal thing for them. So losing, winning doesn't really matter. You know, trying out different stuff is always going to be the most important thing. So for now, we have a 4-1-2-2 video. The reason why I'm going to be making this video is because we have essentially played 10 different games, one with like two decent teams for the most part, like nothing crazy full meta. A lot of these cards that you see in the team, we did end up buying before the game was released. And then we have a player like Sterling, who is an untradeable card, as well as Mario Rui. So definitely a dub there, but a couple of these cards are definitely more expensive nowadays, obviously, because the game is out. So the supply is, the demand is higher, right? People need these cards a little bit more. Ignore the chemistry for this team, okay? The chemistry for this team is just for me having a Road to Glory squad in the beginning. Obviously, I have to fix a few things here and there, move out some players, put some players in. But like I said, cards are very expensive right now. So doing that through gameplay can be a little bit difficult. But this tactic today, guys, is going to be for the 4-1-2-1-2. As you guys know, the 4-1-2-1-2 last year was a pretty good formation to use, and it's definitely a good formation to use yet again this year. Again, guys, this is going to be a tactic that is a beginner tactic, okay? It's because some people sometimes when they play FIFA, they wonder why their players aren't making certain runs, why they don't have that extra passing option, because some people are not as in tune to tactics as like other people can be. So it's always good to have different opinions from people when it comes to this kind of stuff. So that's why we're going to be making the 4-1-2-2 for now. Maybe in the future we'll try like a 4-3-2-1, a 4-4-2, just for the beginning, so you can have a general idea of how you want to switch certain things here and there as you play the game and as you notice certain things. Okay, so we have the defense set to 44 for width, 42 for depth. Defensive style unbalanced. When it comes to offense, we have it on balanced, direct passing, 60 for width, and we also have a 5 for players in the box. Sometimes when it comes to width, it is a little bit weird to have the width high and a defense low, because it does this when you're transitioning from the attack and defense. So sometimes it can be weird, but I do feel like when you are attacking in this game, especially in this case, having a little bit of width is nice, because in my case, we actually switch the instruction of the center mid 2 different times, right? We have either a cover center or a cover wing, depending on the situation. Generally speaking, the instructions on the team is stay back while attacking for the fullbacks. The CDM is on cut pass lane, stay back while attacking cover center. The center mids, right one is the one I usually switch between cover center and cover wing. The left center mid is the one I have on cover center. The cam is untouched. I just kind of let him do his thing, honestly. Even if the glitch exists and he plays in a 4-4-2, sure, don't really care too much, because honestly, he still performs really well for me if that's the case. The 2 strikers. So I usually like to have one on getting behind and then one playing mostly to base characteristics. Sometimes you can have both strikers on getting behind. It can be a very useful thing, because it's always about that push forward, come back, push forward, come back. That type of playstyle movement is definitely very helpful in FIFA, especially if people are parking the bus. So it's always something to look out for when it comes to your strikers making those particular movements, right? Having a player like Ben Yedder is absolutely fantastic. Really nothing bad to say about this guy. The 5-star weak foot, absolutely incredible to work with. Probably going to be doing a review for Ben Yedder, Varane, and Park Ji-sung so far, from the 3 like main guys. And then maybe in the future we could do like a Rafael Leão and stuff, because the rest of the cards here aren't as interesting to people. Timo Werner is like 7k, so it's a little bit different, right? So but maybe we'll do one for him too. It just depends, right? It really depends on the situation. But yeah, that is the tactic. I'm going to show you guys some highlights, talk about the train of thought when it comes to attacking, as well as some other stuff. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, guys, so let's take a look at some of the goals that we ended up scoring for this 4-1-2-2. I'm going to do my best to use some different formations and tactics. Definitely, I think it's really good that we don't have like a super crazy team, because some of these players are untradeable. Like Sterling, I know is like 40-something K on the market, but him, Mario Rui were both untradeable cards from like the beginning of the year, before that game even came out. So definitely huge W's there for the cards that we ended up getting, right? But Yeah, so with the 4-1-2-2 for now, again, like I said, we will be trying out some different formations as the game progresses. Very rare occurrence there where we actually get the ball back from the attacking area, actually getting the ball and scoring our opportunity while they were making a mistake in the defense. Doesn't happen too often, but it was really nice that it did. So you can clearly see here in the 4-1-2-2 tactics, by default, you can already see the pushing against the defenders, right? So when you push against the defenders, what it does is that it brings their defensive line further back, right? If it brings their defensive line further back, you actually are allowed to work with space with both of your center mids if they're very good ones. Now, again, in this case, I have Mateusz Nunes, who, to be honest with you guys, doesn't really do much for me. Like, honestly, he just feels pretty generic for the most part. Gelson is not really the type of card that will defend a lot for you, but his high work rates compensates really well. Does a great job on the attack for a really cheap player. And in defense, obviously the high defensive work rate is fantastic too, right? But yeah, so you can see from the build-up, we make certain runs, certain plays. A card like Ben Yedder, absolutely fantastic yet again this year to use in that striker position. Always finds himself in really good positions. I really like switching him to the getting behind instruction at some point, because the way that he moves across a pitch, like, you know, the old memes, right, is very good, and it's very helpful to have players that do adapt really quickly. This Sterling card was definitely a really nice card to get for the beginning of FIFA, because honestly, playing him in the cam position, he's pretty decent. Not necessarily a terrible card to work with. If I want to switch to a 4-4-2 formation or a 4-3-2-1 formation, I could totally do that with the way that this team is set up, because I already have technically those two midfielders, and then I have like the one attacking oriented center mid if I really want to play with that, right? So yeah, the meta very similar to last year in regards to the way that you attack. You can see that I'm always looking for that extra pass angle. Now, there's obviously a few skill moves that we're definitely going to be learning this year, especially that new the back heel to ball roll. Like, that thing is absolutely nuts, because skill moves to break down defense is definitely going to be a very important thing for you to be able to score your opportunities, because again, people are going to be parking the bus. You need to flood their defense as much as possible for you to be able to score these opportunities. Ben Yedder in a situation like that, very good example of how this tactic works. So with the direct passing tactic and him on getting behind, but him having good attacking AI, he kind of maintains that onside position for me to just get the one goal scoring opportunity. In a situation like this, you could see that I'm not overcommitting the attack if it doesn't make sense to, but I wait for center mids to kind of open up from time to time. I've noticed that the attacking AI in this game is slightly better for certain areas of the pitch. I've definitely noticed that for this year's game in regards to FIFA 22, because before, if I made that certain pass, sometimes they wouldn't aggressively push forward into opening spaces while making angled runs, right? Angled runs is definitely a really huge thing that you have to look for when it comes to players, because if they just make linear, straightforward runs, it doesn't make it special. You need players that are going to be able to adapt really quickly on the pitch, especially if you don't use the target lock tactic. In a situation like this, you can see with Sterling, I do the same exact thing, right? You kind of, in a way, bait the defender a lot here, because you slow down, but then you accelerate, right? What you do there is you don't touch the dash button, you're just dribbling with your left stick, and then you just hold our trigger the moment you think that his defense is kind of slowing down a little bit, because it gives you that little bit of extra space to work with when it comes to attacking, which is obviously fantastic to work with. A lot of the times you see me attack, right, you'll actually notice the defenders overcommitting certain spaces way too much. When they overcommit those spaces, it's the perfect time to dribble into the other direction. Now, dribbling is a little bit harder this year with the players that we are working with. Like, most of the players don't dribble that great. Like, it's probably the worst dribbling has been in regards to like sluggishness and stuff. So you really do have to control it a certain way for it to come off, right? But when it does come off, it's obviously very helpful. Now, to be fair, this is me saying it without actually trying out, you know, some of the new dribbling mechanics, the L1, R1 in certain situations. That type of stuff is always going to be very important to test out when it comes to, you know, just trying out the stuff in this game. So a situation like this with Gonzalo Guedes to Gabriel Jesus, a very good example of, you know, just creating that space through the middle, making those extra passes. It's really helpful, like I said, to have center mids that are both good at attacking and defending, because you're going to notice on so many occasions where you pass it to your striker and then your center mid will just make that extra run, which is super helpful to work with. Like a situation like this, Ji-Sung Park literally opens up the space for me there, because once he makes that pass, because he's not on the stay back while attacking instruction, he actually commits forward there in the attack to open up the space for me to be able to make that one pass off. That's a good situation there with Ji-Sung Park in the center mid position. In that area, for the right center mid area, you can switch between cover center and cover wing depending on the type of player that you're using there. Some players, you feel like you want to keep them on that cover center. Some players make more sense in the cover wing. It really just depends on personal preference. We get a random penalty over here. Never took a penalty once in my life. I just kind of used common sense to be able to take it. I was kind of like, you know what? If I just minimize it as much as possible and aim it bottom right, it should go in, right? So it's like the new penalty mechanic. I haven't practiced the free kicks or the corner kicks or anything like that so far. I've just been passing it shorts for the most part because honestly, I don't really know exactly how it works. This is also another very good example of center mids overcommitting on the attack. This is actually Conor Gallagher's card that actually does this here, which is really funny because Conor Gallagher is not great at all, but we were using him on Giyu's account because he's just the first owner player that he kind of just had chilling in there. But honestly, when I was using him, he was doing more than Mateusz Nunes for me. It was really, really weird. Like, Mateusz Nunes is just not a card that was really doing much for me. So a situation like this, you don't really often get situations like this where your center mids commit into really good areas when someone's like not parking the bus too much, and he actually commits into an area where you can actually cross it into and be able to score the opportunities. Ji-Sung Park is a player that we are going to be doing a review for, as well as the Ben Yedder card. Because obviously those cards are usually like the most popular ones. I'm gonna probably try to do Varane and stuff too if given the opportunity to, but it really just depends on the time frame to be able to collect all this footage and all that good stuff. Anthony was actually a card that was, I think he was like 20k before the game came out, and I think he's like 50k now, which is absolutely ridiculous. But Giyu does have him, so we could try to do some reviews on him as well if given the opportunity to. When in the beginning of the year, I keep mentioning to you guys that I know that a lot of people, what they look for mostly is tutorials, tactics, how to attack, how to defend, right? So this is kind of like the point of the game where you just play a lot of FIFA and try to get the mechanics down as much as possible so that you can kind of have a good idea of what you should be teaching people for the most part, right? What skill moves to utilize in certain positions, passing, dribbling, all of that good stuff, right? But yeah, you can kind of see that there is a consistent pattern when it comes to playing this game and when it comes to the attack, right? So it's really nice to have two strikers that have really good attacking AI, that understands when to make angled runs, understands when to make that getting behind run. Like I said, when I was using the Ben Yedder card, he was a really, really good example of what I was looking for in my striker to move into certain positions really quickly. I think a really cheap alternative that you could work with as of right now could potentially be a Correa card too, right? Because Correa last year was one of those cards that definitely had that certain movement in the striker position that you definitely really wanted for you to be able to play to the best of your ability, right? But yeah, there's so many instances where, you know, you have a center mid that commits on the attack. You just have to make one more extra pass and he's basically there for the taking. What you notice a lot in this game, guys, and this is for any formation really, is that sometimes the midfielders are really caught in no man's land, right? Like they're really, really spread out in very, very strange ways. So it's going to be very, very important to find the right midfielders for your formation and tactic, because I really don't believe it's like a situation like last year where it's like everything is like, oh, I can use Akari as my CDM and I'll be perfectly fine. Like I do feel like there's going to be better options to work with depending on how your team is formatted. Each center mid that's in the team affects the way that the other center mids move, or the CDM, right? So if you have two center mids where one is high and the other one is high medium, that movement might not be a personal preference of yours. Maybe you will like it. Maybe you'll like the extra attack with the high medium work rate, working with like a super aggressive striker or something, right? So that type of balance is going to be very important to find in the game. What I will say is that when it comes to the attack, like I said, angled runs for the center mids is definitely something that you have to look for a lot, but there's not really a whole lot where you notice like a massive difference. Like you still notice that certain cards are still very, very effective to use, like Ronaldo Sanchez. Ronaldo Sanchez is still an absolute monster. He just has like this hidden FIFA trait where he's just like an absolute beast, right? Because you can get a card that is just as cheap as that man and they just will not perform to that ability, right? So guys, it's the beginning of the year. You got to try out a lot of stuff. The reviews that I will mostly be doing is probably going to be cards that I actually ended up liking a lot, right? So a card like Varane, a card like Ben Yedder are definitely cards to, you know, look forward to when it comes to the reviews. And then someone like Park Ji-sung could be very nice too. But yeah, that's it for the review of the tactics that I say review, but it's my tactic this time, right? If you guys have any formation and tactics that you guys do enjoy using, just like last year, be sure to send it my way. I'll definitely be taking a look at it. I'm going to be getting different tactics and formations from different people so that we can help out multiple people when it comes to formations that they might have a personal preference on. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video today. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.